Welcome back to our Critical Concert. We're going to get into some wonderful nerdy holiday music in a bit, but I just want to thank everyone in this community who helped create this show. In particular, this year Hunter Rogerson created all the amazing graphics for us, making us look way more professional than we actually are. He also did our theme song. Dani Gage and Ben Leds helped me out way more than they should have on back-end production stuff, and Spencer Smith did a bunch of audio production for some of our artists. And a special thanks to Abria Iyengar for yes-anding a fundamentally ridiculous concept. Without further ado, let's listen to some music, shall we? This is
Gather round, ye lads and maidens, quiet for a spell, and hearken to a winter's tale ye often may hear tell, of younger days and shyer ways, and times that chill the soul, for came it once and may again, the day Taldore froze. In restless peace the continent sleeps, a scattered remnant remolding, but allies rust and elfin mistrust returns as the mountains grow cold.
Through frostbit eyes the elements spy, division ripe for the seizing. Without a word, Valeravan heard the rumor they spread by the breeze.
Then all of a sudden the winter fell, the steel and ice glow was blinding. Midst hollow cries and shallow goodbyes, the forest and hills stayed behind.
Take a hand, my friend and family, we a circle form. And though the frost blows all around, we keep each other warm.
In desperate fight, Kymalian might secured relief from the wasteland. Their pleas went on as far as Iman, for kindred in arms to make haste.
Then all of a sudden the winter fell, the steel and ice glow was blinding. Midst hollow cries and shallow goodbyes, the forest and hills stayed behind.
Through 2 long years and petrified tears, the ice-lost land suffered bravely. Without a flame, the rain of thirst came, and turned even great men to slaves.
Raise a glass, my kin and cousin, covet now a sip. For though with water all around, they never saw a drip.
Chill of dread crossed Taldor spread, till bough and peak froze together. of dwarven hands, and promised the landlord to fell.
Then all of a sudden the winter fell, the steel and dice glow was blinding. With hallowed cries and joyous surprise, the forest and hills came behind. Stretch your gaze across the basin, picture if you could, though melted now upon this scene, the Rhyme Lord's throne once stood. And so it was, and so it is, and so the warning stands. Lest every ember leave your heart, hold fast your neighbor's hand.
Hi, Josh. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for coming back.
Hey, thank you for having me.
In case you missed last year's concert, Josh, a.k.a. Meany Vizzini, is a songwriter who has worked closely with the Cantata Pansophical, a.k.a. us, to produce all kinds of Critical Role-related content. First off, would you mind telling us a little bit about this piece you created?
Yeah, so when you first brought up Winter's Crest, I was thinking about what is behind that holiday. Like what other holidays is that kind of like here? Yeah. And to really understand Winter's Crest, the story behind Winter's Crest, I think it's a celebration, but it's a celebration because of where you were.
Yeah.
When that happened. And so as I was thinking about it, I was like, that's pretty close to like Passover.
Right.
You have to realize where you were for the full effect of the celebration. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking along the lines of, well, how would people celebrate it? Maybe they would celebrate it similar to a Passover. And as I was reading the story, there's this giant lake, this great lake in the middle of Taldore.
Right.
It's called the Boromir Basin.
Yeah.
And the story behind that is where the ice palace of Erevan the Rhyme Lord was. When it melted, it created that great lake.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking about, looking out across the water, and what if that was a memorial to your people, like, has the same kind of weight to your people as like a 9/11. Right? And how powerful that would be for the people who, of the fishing villages along that Great Lake. And so I decided I was going to write their song that they would write to really drive home the point of Winter's Crest, which I believe to be that you've got to stick together. Mm-hmm. You've got to stay together. You can get picked off if you're separate. The house divided won't stand, kind of a thing.
Yes. It's not a bad lesson for us today.
No. And what's the point of going through hardship if you don't remember the lesson?
Well, speaking of banding together, you managed to wrangle all sorts of wonderful musicians and artists to collaborate with you on this. Can you tell us more about that process?
Yeah. First off, I had to. Realizing what the message behind Winter's Crest was, or what I believe it to be, I had to. I had to reach out to other people and make this a group effort for this song. And I put a little bit of work up front into it. I had a scratch track and everything like that to kind of help get people on board.
Yeah.
And it was, hey, can you take this stanza for me? So that hopefully it was something that was manageable for people to do on relatively short notice.
Someone out there wanted to put together a large scale collaboration like this. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. So like I said before, you got to put the upfront work in to be able to sell your vision to other people, because there's a lot that people can do with their time, right? And you're asking for people's time at the very least. And so you've got to be able to convey your vision, and the best way to do that is to have like a demo or like a prototype, something along those lines, so that people can see the same, or at least a glimpse of the same thing that you're seeing as your vision.
Yeah. You've contributed to many musicals, both, working with me, working with CS. You've made EPs and singles that we've released and that you've released on your own. You helped produce last year's concert. You put together this musical telephone episode that we released in September. What are your takeaways from all of that work?
If you have a good group of people that are all eager to help each other out, that all have mutual respect for each other, then things that you didn't think were possible are possible, as long as there's someone to ask. If there's someone doing the asking, someone with the vision who takes the time.
What's your next thing that you want to put out into the world, either with us or by yourself?
Well, I really liked the musical telephone.
It was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to see happening. I got to be the person behind the scenes, seeing them as they came in.
That's a fun role. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But at some point, I'd like to be on the other side of that, where I get to be a part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if anybody wants to organize a musical telephone, hit me up.
Okay. Now, we personally worked very closely on one particular Cantata project that came out in between when this will air and our last concert last year. And that's the Mighty Nine musical EP that we put out together called Molly's Rules. For those who may not know about this project, could you give us the elevator pitch?
Yeah, so I wrote I Wear the Mask. It was a Campaign 2 song covering a lot of different characters and how they were hiding things.
Yeah.
And that became big. Like I said before, Ginny D, Critical Bard, got on board with that and made it into a big thing and a really
Came
special
out fantastic.
thing. Oh, yeah. As soon as they were recording it, I was regretting not writing a verse for Bo. And so while we were still in the process of producing I Wear the Mask, I was writing Bo Unmasked. It became a whole song instead of just a verse, because I really wanted to explore that character. And then I got done with that and was thinking, what if we made it a little bit more?
Do you have any big takeaways from that project? What was the biggest thing that you learned?
To be able to be frank with someone in the creative process.
Yes.
I know a lot of people will see us just really hyping up each other's work. Everybody in the critter music community really hypes up each other's work. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is how much feedback there is behind the scenes in the development of this stuff, and how much that's necessary. But in general, I'm really proud of what we put together there.
Glad.
And yeah, we wouldn't have put it out if we weren't, right?
Well, and I remember, we got to a point where we were happy with the lyrics, and we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do with it next. We could maybe do some of the voices ourselves, maybe.
We can screw up most of the voices.
Yeah, I have a bad Irish accent. But
which is
then
perfect.
we did get to a certain point where we needed someone to help us And thankfully, we got some help from a very talented voice actor to help us actually make it sound like real music. And she's on the call right now. Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, Rochelle Ibarra. For those who haven't met Rochelle yet, she is an actor on both stage and in the recording booth who has collaborated with us and other Critter musicians. If you've heard of any of our music, you may have heard her as Not, Dodie, Cassandra, and literally every female member of the Mighty Nine in the Molly's Rules EP that we're talking about right now. Rochelle, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Not only did you now have to reprise your role as Not for this project, you also had to take on Bo and Yasha and Jester.
And talk to yourself.
Yeah, a little bit.
Honestly, that was like a dream come true, though.
But how do you balance, how do you manage those voices, especially those that are so similar, like Bo and Yasha, where the accent can't really help you in differentiating those tones?
I mean, they don't sound similar to me. I just try to live in their head for a while. And if you listen to it enough, like I try not to just run it in my head, because then I think it loses the life then when you go to record. But it's just a lot of listening to them on a regular basis and kind of getting that in my head. And like for instance, Bo's gruffness and her like lower voice, that comes out of like her bravado, right? So like being tough and being confident, that just kind of then just starts to sit lower, in your register and just kind of comes out of the story of it all.
What was the most difficult song for you, or the easiest, or the most fun? Do any of them stand out?
Bo Unmasked for sure. Just as the whole working on her story and as someone who like Not was my favorite character of the Mighty Nine. And so living in her world was so much fun and heartbreaking for like Not Throwing Away My Shot and I Wear the Mask. And Bo, I hadn't thought of her story as much as clearly Josh had in writing the song. And so kind of absorbing his words in that song, or both of your words, and figuring out how to put this, just having so much more empathy for her that I had before. And now she's one of my favorite characters. And I understand her so much better just from working on that song. And it was a blast. That like every single take I did of like the monologue part of that, I was crying, but in the best way. It was very cathartic and, just brought me closer to the characters. It just feels weird that it becomes so much more personal than you live in their head. And then you watch the show and you're like, oh man, it feels like so much more real to you because you lived it in your head. So
you talk. If I could just say on that, I didn't get Bo at first either. And that's why she didn't have a verse in I Wear the Mask in the original one. And I, as I was writing Bo Unmasked, I was thinking this is never going to see the light of day. One of the reasons behind that was like, well, I'm not going to be able to perform this. And I'm putting a lot in here. I don't know if we're going to be able to find anyone who can perform this, the way that I'm thinking of it being performed, who's not me, if we're going to be able to have that level of communication. And then you just knocked it out of the park. Like you just nailed it.
Thank you. And it was nuts because like rap is not, something that I'm super familiar with and haven't done a ton of or listened to a lot of. So it was just a matter of just being Bo for a bit, and it was cool.
That's something I wanted to touch more on. You talk about being Bo, living in the character's head. What is that? Because I don't understand. I'm a musician.
Yeah, it's so hard to explain. It's really just playing pretend and imagining. For instance, because Not Story is so clear in my head still, like imagining hugging Luke, imagining living with Yeza, imagining all those things, and just when the things you think about become important to you, and the things that are important to you, you think about a lot. And that's kind of how it just starts snowballing in your head, and it becomes real to you. Like, you know, any daydream that we have feels like reality for a bit in our heads, to the point where if you live in it enough, then absorbing those words, and I know this is kind of different because I'm not really reacting to something, but those words kind of become reactive in the moment. And just so I remember you guys would even direct me sometimes of like a specific moment, like this is where Not is in this moment. And like that kind of anchored me into, all right, well, this is why I'm singing this. And like, this is probably who I'm singing this to. So like defending herself and not throwing away my shot and being like very adamant about not giving up, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of, I don't know if any of that makes sense, but it makes sense to me.
Should we talk about Allfield's Kin at all?
We should. Actually, I don't think that we've actually talked about that in public.
We haven't.
We should definitely mention that, especially because of how critical Morgan is to this entire project. For those of you who don't know, R. Morgan Slade, friend of the show, is actually one of the reasons that this entire thing is happening in the first place. He reached out on Discord and was like, let's do another one of these things. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little busy. He's like, oh no, I'll help you. And everyone else will too. And they did. And hopefully, since you're seeing this, it ended up being true. But tell us a little bit more about Allfield's Kin, written by R. Morgan Slade.
Yeah, so I was reaching out to a lot of people in our community trying to get some momentum behind this project. And I reached out to R. Morgan Slade, and I was like, so I got an idea for a song in a musical. We need a song that's like around the time that they help out Allfield. And I think I might have given him a little bit more than that, but not much. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I got some ideas. And he wrote Allfield's Kin off of that, came back to us with it, and it was like, this is pretty darn good. This is pretty darn good, dude. And he was like, yeah, can I release this on my own? We're like, yeah, absolutely. You wrote it.
I didn't know that's how it started. That's amazing.
Me either.
Yeah, and then we had Allfield's Kin out in the wild.
And we originally wanted to do Allfield's Kin as a part of the project. And, you know, we didn't end up doing that in the end. But I did actually include in the song Better, when everyone is remembering Molly and what he meant to the group, there is a melodic line that I included, specifically referencing Allfield's Kin. So if you listen very carefully, you will hear the melody from Allfield's Kin woven into Better as an homage to that. But all of us just literally last night finished watching the premiere of episode 1 of campaign 3. What are our thoughts? Go ahead, Ro.
I'm not. That was my thought. My mind is blown.
Yep. Physical thinking.
Do we have any favorites? Any theories?
Oh man, so many people coming back.
Yeah.
So many people coming back from other things.
Laudna, my beloved. I love her.
Sam's character is Peak Sam.
Yes.
The best.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was on point that episode the whole time.
I do just want to share one funny thing that happened last night. But so I went to go see it in the theater, and I was freaking out because my D&D group, who are a lot of critter bards in this community, we had a poll going for how many of the classes we could guess, and whoever got the closest would get an inspiration point in our next game. And I got an inspiration point.
Hey,
nice.
Well done. Now, if you don't mind, I just want to know what this time of year means to you. If there's any traditions, any stories that come to mind.
We would get together on Christmas Eve with my extended family and have a big party, big Mexican family gathering. And I'd always look forward to that. And then recently, though, I will share this. because we have some critter fans in my family, mostly my mother and I, but there are others as well. We started having Critmas on Christmas. And so we have a Critical Role themed tree like for the last couple of years, and all our ornaments are Critical Role themed. We had like peacock feathers to represent Molly like on the top of our tree last year. We have like cow ornaments for Vox Machina, like those kinds of things.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, for me and my family, Christmas is like a week and a half long.
Wow, that's the way to do it.
For me, it's a whole period of time, and not really even, even the specific time of year. I guess it's whenever we can get together.
Yeah.
At this point, now that we're grown up.
Well, that's what it's about. Bring people together, like you said at the top. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. This was an absolute blast. If people want to find more about you, where can they go online?
Online, pretty much everywhere. I am Meany Vizzini. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter.
Yeah, you can find me at Rochelle Ibarra on Twitter and on Instagram. On Instagram, it's stupid because I already had that taken. So it's RORO_Ibarra, IBARRA. And then on Twitter, it's just Rochelle Ibarra, no spaces.
Excellent.
And you can hopefully find us both in Cantata Pansophical projects.
I'm sure that you will be found in many of our projects, both in the past and hopefully in the future too. Thank you again, guys, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Will. And to all, a good night.
A couple of minutes back, I started to build a snowman at Beauregard's feet. Big one, are you going to help me do this? This is what they do here, so.
I just kick it. Whatever you started. Sorry, let's build a snowman.
Okay, but you built that because I did all that work for the last minute, so you have to make up for it.
In it. It stings. Yeah, it stings a little. I pelt her back.
Yeah, full on snowfight.
Snowfight!
I would like to cast telekinesis on Beauregard and throw her into a snowdrift.
Nice.
Hey, buddy. Payback is a bitch. Which one? You want to go into the near one or the far one?
The fluffy one.
The fluffy one? No, I'll do the far one instead.
That was not as fluffy as I expected.
I hope we do not get into a brawl today. That took a lot of effort. Worth it.
Hello, Ethan. Welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining me again.
Hi, thanks for having me, man.
Well, in case you didn't catch our concert last year, Ethan, aka the Lofi Bard, is a bard who makes lo-fi music. Funny how that works. That's really on you. You should have known that. Now, would you start us off, Ethan, by telling us a little bit about this Winters piece that you made for us?
Sure. So I kind of went about it the same way I go about making a lot of my other tracks, where I always start off with chords and stuff like that. And I had recently kind of gotten into a little bit of a rut of having a lot of kind of the same chords over and over. And so I started messing around a lot with like, okay, what weird things could I do? What could I drop out? And stuff like that. And what I came up with isn't even that strange or anything like that, but it felt strange to me just because I hadn't done something like it before. Yeah. So the chord I came up with ended up being rather than a major seventh chord, I dropped the third down to the second. So it would go from C to F, and then C, A, F, E to an E major 7. So starting out with kind of this chord stuff, that's really where it started out. And then I was just kind of try to trickle some weird stuff in there. So try to come up with some sort of weird little melody on the right hand. And then try to pull up as many other kind of high, like twinkly sort of instruments as I could. So then a little twinkle in the background in a couple spots. And then my wife especially was like, hey, you said last time you played trombone. You got to put trombone in this one.
And I'm so glad you did. It's great.
I know. It turned out great. So trombone is not like recording trombone is something that I've been trying to get better and better at. Okay. And especially with the last album that I had released, where it is that Menagerie of Memories. Yeah. Which is that whole which is based off of the track actually from last year.
I noticed it got prime placement on that album. It made me feel real good.
Exactly. Yeah. So I started doing this thing in that album where I would record myself playing the same thing twice. I would have 2 takes of it, pan one to the left, pan one to the right.
Love that.
It makes it makes for a really, really organic sound as opposed to just having kind of one track right down the middle, or even one track kind of panned left and right or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Have you messed around with the miking setup at all, or is it mostly post-processing stuff?
Mostly post stuff. Mic placements. I've found the way I like my mic placed a lot of times, where I like to have it kind of at a medium to medium high gain, and then kind of get kind of close to it. Especially right now, I don't have a lot of room. To spread out or anything like that. I can't back up too far.
Okay.
So.
Oh gosh. Does the slide ever get in your way? Because holy crap, that's a big instrument.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Do you have a trigger?
I do have a trigger. I do have the trigger trombone. So that does definitely help. I don't have to reach out for seventh a lot of times. But yeah, so I stand up a lot of times and with my mic, this is the mic I actually use to record most of my stuff. Cool. So it's on this boom. So I just kind of,
that helps.
I can move it around. Yeah.
So you mentioned this album that you released. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? This is fully Critical Role related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was my first Critical Role album. And I think so far it's my only one. Everything else has been singles as far as Critical Role stuff goes. But so this moment, I talked about it a little bit last year in our interview, where this moment, I loved it so much. I watched it over and over, and I knew immediately that I needed to do something with it. And even last year when I was making this first track, I was like, I'm going to do a whole thing on this. I know it. So I wanted to take every little bit that Liam explained, about all these different moments that he was putting up on the dome. Yeah. And I wanted to make something to go along with each of those. So
each song is actually one of the things that Liam mentioned in that scene.
Mm-hmm. Each song is something that he mentioned.
Yeah. I love that. What a great concept album.
Once I came up with it, it was like, okay, that's easy peasy, done.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah. I just thought it was a bunch of cool Critical Role moments, and that makes so much more sense.
And if you listen to the album in order and then you watch the scene, unless I made a mistake. It should be in order, right? The track should come up as like Liam is saying the thing. So at the beginning of each one of the tracks is like Liam's little explanation of what it is. Yeah. And then a lot of times I try to cut audio in from like earlier in the campaign where this happened or this happened, you know?
Oh man. So that's brilliant. What was the most difficult part of putting that album together?
For me personally, I struggle a lot. I feel like this is what a lot of people say is hard, is mastering and getting things to really sound good together. So that was probably one of the trickiest things. And I still listen back to it every now and then. And I'm like, I could have done that better. I could have done that better.
Everything I've ever done has that constantly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the bane of the artist, I think.
I think so. I tell them I mentioned this last year. I teach trombone private lessons, and I tell that to my students all the time. Like, you are your biggest critic by far. You will always and forever be your biggest critic. So I try to tell that to myself as well, and be like, it's okay. You know, you made some improvements. That's good. We're gonna just keep going on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think getting it kind of all put together to where everything is at like this really nice volume as well, like from one track to the next. Like that for me has been really, really tricky. Yeah. Especially because I've never had to worry about that in an album. Like, I was just doing singles. So it's
but you do have another album, which I also want to talk to you about, Tea Time. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Tea Time came about, that was the first album that I did where it was the idea of I'm just going to do an album based on all like a lot of my different types of tea that I really like was the idea. So like Lemon Lift, if anyone knows, Lemon Lift is a Bigelow type of tea where it's black tea with lemon, and it's just a tea bag. It's like you can buy it anywhere, but that tea has been like one of my like absolute favorite teas, especially through like grad school and stuff like that. In the winter time, my wife and I would have Bigelow Lemon Lift tea just at all times. And I tried to, with that album, it was like each track again is kind of like pairing along with that type of tea. So
how do you take, tell me the journey from tea to music. How do you take the taste sense and turn it into the auditory sense?
Sure. So I think is a lot of just drinking the tea while you make it.
Fair enough.
And kind of like, what does that make me feel like? What do I remember from this? Lemon Lift, just because I was talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Like Lemon Lift, to me, even just the name had kind of this more upbeat, sort of energetic Lemon Lift. So that track is quite a bit more energetic than a lot of the other ones. I think I don't know. Now I'm not remembering the name. It's like Friday Tea or something like that. That song is based off of one of their teas, and it was just like, it's this D&D tea, and like I'm pretty sure Deathflower was either Caduceus's tea or it was it was Caduceus's.
Amazing.
So
well, speaking of the D&D stuff, how is that side of your life going? Are you playing? Are you running the game? What's happening with the nerd stuff?
So we played D&D a lot. We play this Friday. Will be my third session for the week on the third different game.
You're eating well.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. Yep. We're fat and happy over here. That's for sure.
Oh, that's great.
So we have three campaigns that I'm playing in. One of them, my wife is the DM. It is a all women's group. I am the only man in it.
Oh, shoot.
I feel like I'm just weighing the group down. We kind of joked whenever it started. We were like, man, maybe I should just stop because like this would be so good, But my character is at least gay in that campaign. So
that counts for something.
Yeah. Her campaign though is extremely off the wall. It is not a typical D&D campaign at all. It is all homebrew. Everyone plays an animal. So for instance, my character is a bat. We have a possum. We have a lion.
Whoa.
Yeah. We have a
giant size discrepancy there.
Yeah. We have a tropical bird and an owl. So that campaign is really, really cool. One of the other campaigns we're playing in is based in Eberron. That one is a little, quite a bit darker, a little more steampunky. Nice. One is different. This one is a different group of players, more my college friends who all play trombone.
Awesome.
And then we have a small subset group of that group who also plays a campaign that we call Miracle Whips because we're coming up with a group name and we had the alchemy jug and we all just
mayonnaise colored Benzes.
Yeah. That campaign is also a little bit interesting in that almost everyone in it is some sort of like a beast race. So like I play a turtle, and then we had two dragonborns, and we have a loxodon, which is my wife plays a loxodon in that.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's got to be fun.
It's great. It's really fun. But yeah, playing so much D&D is one of our many facets of our lives right now, for sure.
It's great.
Play just as much as we can.
I love it. I hope that can continue for you.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of a million different campaigns, this is going to get a little timey-wimey. The folks out here will already know what we're talking about. But as we speak right now, Critical Role Campaign 3 is about to drop tomorrow.
Yes.
How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? Any predictions? Any theories?
One of my D&D groups is doing a whole prediction thing. So one of our DMs actually made up a list, and we've all gone through and made our predictions as to what everyone's races are and what everyone's classes are.
Awesome.
So we are on top of it.
Love it. Do you have a particularly out there guess, or are you just kind of trying to win the bet?
I have mine pulled up. Maybe my two most out there guesses. I'm guessing that Taliesin will be playing a changeling rogue. Ooh. And that Travis will be playing a Genasi cleric.
Well, you heard it here first, people. Or actually, you heard it here last. This is probably the last prediction thread you will ever hear. But speaking of things that are coming up next, what's next for you in the music world? What do you want to do in the future?
Sure. So I've been working a little bit on this project it's been a while now, probably working on tracks for it here and there, actually probably for about a year since our son was born, where I have been wanting to make lo-fi music that you use as like ambiance more for like your D&D game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So doing stuff that does not have dialogue behind it, pretty obvious, I think. Stuff that like kind of it's all kind of the same idea. I feel like a lot of times with lo-fi, where it just kind of exudes that sort of feeling of like it's a rainy day, it's a peaceful night, it's intense combat, stuff like that. Intense combat is a little bit tricky. I think
that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Have you started to unpack that? Because I imagine that's a bit of a puzzle.
I started on it, and the best thing I came up with so far was kind of was some pretty intense string music.
Okay.
But I think I haven't worked on it too much for a while, that specific track. And I kind of left it because I was like, I don't know if this is it.
Okay. Hey,
so
well, hopefully you can get there. And when you do, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Thanks. Yeah, I am looking forward to continuing to work on it for who knows how long still.
Well, one last question for you. If you don't mind sharing, it's wintertime. Many holidays are happening in hopefully when you are watching this live. Do you have a favorite tradition or a story that comes to mind about this time of year?
I do. So my family has always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve.
Nice.
So we always get our we would, whenever we were kids, we would get our presents from Santa and stuff like that. But so since then, we've still been continuing to celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, where we get our gifts for each other and everything like that. We always meet at my parents' house. We always because there's a bunch of us, so there ends up being a lot of stuff underneath the tree. And so we always joke like, oh, there's just so much love under the tree. That's what my mom tells herself every year. She's like, we're going to cut back. And it's like, oh, we never do. But probably the funnest tradition that we do is my dad actually started it. He would wrap like a small present for my mom.
Okay.
And then he would put that into a slightly bigger package for my mom. And he would put that into a slightly bigger package. And one of the things that we do whenever we're celebrating Christmas is we always take turns as we go through. So it starts with the youngest and you go to the oldest. So whenever my mom would open up her package and there was just another wrapped package in there, she has to wait till her next turn to open that one.
That's so savage. I love it.
Yeah. So my brother and I picked this up and we started doing it to our significant others whenever we were bringing them.
Oh, yes.
So it's been years now since I'd done this to my wife, but I took a page out of my dad's book and I did that. So I had a big box. It was like a bread box, I think. This is a while back. We were still in like grad school or college. And inside that, I had like maybe a mug or something inside that, which was wrapped. And then inside that mug was this tiny little jewelry box. She opened that up on her next turn and she opened it up and it was just a piece of paper that said, "Wasted your turn." So I've gotten a lot of crap for that.
That's so
in
good.
The years since. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
I'm living for that. Mad respect. Mad respect. I hope you didn't get too much shit from that for that one.
We still got married, so it's fine.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. This has been a total blast. So much fun. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you online?
Sure. So I am on Twitter at the Lofi Bard. I'm on Spotify at the Lofi Bard and YouTube as the Lofi Bard.
Making it easy for us. I love it. Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Hi, Stephen. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, nice to be here.
In case you haven't heard, Stephen is a musician and a voice actor. I want to talk to you first and foremost about this piece you created for us. What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, I got the idea from a song I had been playing with the Vancouver community band a couple years ago called The Skater's Waltz. And I really loved playing that on my trumpet. So I just kind of used that as a basis for creating my piece I had for you.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, is trumpet your primary instrument?
Yeah.
How long have you been playing?
Since 5th grade.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what led you down the path of playing in bands, kind of standard stuff toward composing and producing your own music? Where did that start?
I mean, I've always been interested into music. My family's all in music. We all play instruments. And Well, I had messed around with making some music when I was in college, and I just sort of continued doing that since then. And I guess it's sort of become this thing I just really like doing because I love music and I want to make more stuff for people to listen to.
Well, when did you start with Critical Role in particular, and how did you transition from composing for yourself to composing now based on this silly, nerdy show that we all love?
Well, I heard about Critical Role when I was in college a few years ago, but I didn't start watching it until it was around Memorial Day-ish of 2020 because COVID, I didn't have a job, so I was binging Critical Role from the very first episode.
When did you start composing based on Critical Role?
I think it was when I was hearing the music during their breaks. That I was like, that sounds really cool. I think I could make something that sounds kind of like that.
Yeah.
So I just went with it.
Now, I've noticed that you've created a lot of music focused on Bo and Yasha in particular. What is it about those two characters that inspires you?
I guess for Yasha, it's just her general like metal nature. I just love hard rock, so I was like, go for it, why not? For Bo, it's she just had a lot of unique sayings like pop pop and don't want shit.
This is going to be released a little bit timey-wimey. The folks out there will have already been enjoying Critical Role Campaign 3 from some time. But for you and me, it's fairly recent. We just watched it, 2 days ago? The premiere episode of Campaign 3. How are you feeling? Do you have any favorites, any theories?
Oh, every time I see Imogen, I always think Imoen from Baldur's Gate.
See,
I'm never not going to see that. But I also really love Laudna, just her general fun, scary nature.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the music stuff. Trumpet and guitar seem like very different instruments to me.
Yeah.
The process for learning those two seems like, they're very different muscles. What was the transition like from, I'm assuming, trumpet to guitar?
Well, I started playing trumpet, as I said, in 5th grade, and that was mostly a choice I made going between trumpet and trombone. And my brother plays trumpet, so sure, I'll go with trumpet.
Nice.
And then for guitar, it was around 9th grade-ish. I expressed interest in playing guitar after hearing Aerosmith song.
There's some good ones.
Oh, I know.
Loving It Elevator, Dream On.
It was Dream On. That was my inspiration to start playing guitar.
Nice. Did you ever learn it?
I sort of learned it-ish, but...
Some of those solos are a bit gnarly.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of weird in that when I'm playing guitar, I don't do covers because I like making my own stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that. What is the difference for you composing on, say, the guitar versus composing for a more orchestral, setting?
Well, with the guitar, anytime I'm making music for that, it's going to be hard rock or metal.
Okay,
You can't do that with trumpet.
I mean,
you can, but
let's talk about that. I want to hear more about that. But no, continue.
Oh. Yeah, for guitar, it's hard rock stuff. And then for trumpet, I just try to use more of the epic fantasy type stuff you hear.
Yeah.
A lot now.
Oh, for sure. It's great stuff. Have you started playing D&D? Did that start before or after Critical Role?
Oh, I've been playing D&D since I was 9.
Oh, shoot. Okay,
yeah,
well,
I started on 2nd edition.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now I have way more questions about that. Talk me through the different editions. Do you have a favorite? What were the transitions like? And did you play? I mean, did you skip from 2nd to 5th? Did you play all of them?
Well, I started on 2nd, but I'd say 5th edition is my favorite right now, with 2nd coming in 2nd. And then the only other one I've played is 3.5.
Okay.
But yeah, 2nd is just a weird monster.
How so?
I mean, for starters, Fako, where you have to basically roll your d20. There's some weird subtraction they have to do, so you have to get lower than the monster's AC.
Right.
And having low ACs is really good.
So weird.
Like weird playing games where I could have a -10 AC. I'm like, yeah, hit me now. And people today were like, what? That's no problem.
Yeah. When that switch happened, did it mess with your head? Were you one of the people who was like, this is wrong. It should be the other way around?
Yeah, when I started playing 3-5 with some friends in college, I was kind of like, what? There's like nothing on this character sheet. Where's Fako? Where's all these like bend bars? Why are there only 3 saves?
But you didn't like 3.5 as much as 5th edition. So what was that transition from 3.5 to 5th like for you?
5th was a lot simpler, and since it was relatively new at the time, there weren't like 20,000 books and character options that you could make the most broken character imaginable on.
What's interesting for me is a lot of the people I talked to got into D&D because of Critical Role. Whereas you were already doing the D&D way before you even heard about Critical Role. How do you feel that show has measured up in terms of, what the game means to you personally, and now watching the show as a fan?
As a fan, it's wonderful to watch them all get like super hardcore into the role playing. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
And I know they're all voice actors, so they're going to do an amazing job anyways. And for people that are a little newer to D&D, that's not something that their sort of games aren't really like what you should expect every time from a game, because not everyone's a professional voice actor.
Well said. Well said.
But at the same time, it is something that you can really strive for and use bits of what they do as inspiration in your own games.
Yeah.
I know I've personally taken a lot of inspiration from them as in working towards being a better DM myself.
Now, in terms of like your college days before, you had found out about Critical Role, were the games as RP heavy as we see on the show as audience members?
Oh no.
And has that changed?
Not really. I guess there are some people who may come in expecting it to be like this super awesome RP fest where people are basically becoming their characters.
Yeah.
I'd actually say that Critical Role is really good for it because it's getting a lot of people who had never heard of it or who were maybe afraid of playing it, getting into it just to show them that, hey, literally anyone can play it and you shouldn't feel bad for playing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Well, I've got one last question to wrap things up. As you can see by our silly hats, it's winter time. It's the time of holidays. And I just like to know what this time of year means to you. If there's a tradition that you have or a story that comes to mind, what does this time mean to you?
Oh, this time is my favorite time of year. I just love Christmas.
Yes,
I love
right
snow.
answer. Right answer.
Yeah, I love snow and Christmas and just being with my family during the holidays and quiet phone. And just being around the family, having Christmas dinner, opening presents, just generally being with my family and not having to worry about anything.
Yeah, it's the best. Is there a particular dinner that you guys tend to have?
We always have a ham.
Nice. Classic. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute joy talking with you. If people want to know more about you and your music, where can they find you online?
Online, I have a few places. I mainly post my stuff first on BandLab. My handle is, I think it's Ninja Horse on BandLab, and I also do SoundCloud. You can just search my name, Stephen Hack, for there. And on Twitter, I usually just post stuff from SoundCloud, but it's
excellent.
On Twitter, I am the Ninja Horse.
Awesome. Well, go make it happen, people. And thank you again for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I don't know how much time I have. They could be back at any moment. I don't even know if anyone will hear this, but if there's anyone listening, please, you have to stop. Don't make any more donations to Amnesty International. You have to stop supporting this noble effort to promote human rights around the world. Ignore the fact that any donations to this wonderful cause are tax deductible in the United States. If you keep donating, I'm going to have to continue having interesting and pleasant conversations with talented musicians. Don't even think about the fact that if you donate through this stream's campaign, you could unlock stretch goals and allow us to create even more silly content. Please, just stop donating.
What are you doing in there?
Oh God, they found me. Please, if anyone's out there, you have to stop donating. Don't use the link below. Please, somebody help me!
We're an international community.
Hey, Jake, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, in case you missed our last critical concert, Jake Lionheart is a hip-hop artist and beat maker who produces D&D themed beats and bangers. And to start us off, would you mind telling us a little bit about this winter's piece that you made for us?
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I was having a hard time. I don't know if it was because when we did this last year, we were in pandemic, so we had plenty of time.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those where I'm like, I am not like able to get what I want done. And then funny enough, I was actually going to collaborate with Megami.
Yeah.
And the original idea was doing a spicy, like Latin vibed, like holidays on the beach.
Okay.
And we just could not get it to work. And I think maybe it was because it felt hot in California. And so doing a Winter's Crest song, I think that's why we were leaning for like this like Latin flavored, like, beach Christmas type of vibe.
Yeah.
And I was honestly scared that I wasn't going to make it. But then like the weather, weirdly, one cold rainy day in California happens. And I actually felt cold while I was making beats. And then I don't know if it was just because I felt cold that like I kind of found the right vibe that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And so I hope people, when they listen to it, I don't know if it'll make them feel like, chilly or cold or something like that. But I did that. And then it just reminded me of like the whole last part of campaign 2 where they're trekking through the snow and everything else like that. And then it's kind of where I got like, the idea for Winter in Exandria. So
I love that. Well, I'm really glad you had time. Thank you for making it.
Oh, I was emailing you right to like deadline. So I was like, wait.
But you talk about not having enough time. I don't see that from the other side of the screen. Since we last talked, you've done multiple concept albums, a huge number of beats. Do you have a preference for either genre? I've noticed you bouncing back and forth, or is there a different genre that you want to explore?
I just love music, so I would like to explore more than just hip hop, but I feel the most confident in making hip hop, so I think that's why I kind of like hang out there. But no, like I would be totally up to doing other stuff that, trying things. And I think after that last Critical concert, I've got a lot closer with a lot of other Critter bards.
That's great.
So I've got like, who is it? Like Ben Northgraves and Chase and all of them to like
friends of the show.
Yeah, friends of the show. And then also like they got me. I have it here because I was also on chats with like Hunter and Aiden, and so I don't know. I got me some music theory books now.
Ooh,
yeah,
I love that.
Talking to guys like Spencer, and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Have you started perusing that yet? Any interesting tidbits?
I did, and I'm like, Ben, help, because I don't understand what I'm doing.
Was there anything that he told you that you took away as like, oh, this is going to help a lot?
It's one of those where I'm like, it's definitely helping me go down the right path, because then he'll be like, there's Dorian mode. And I'm like, no, his name is Dorian Storm. He's in EXU.
Nice.
And he's just like, no. There's a thing called Dorian mode. And you can explain like the blues and seventh notes. And I'm like, so it was kind of cool seeing the stuff that I do by feeling being explained to me.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I personally have been so grateful to you for is you found so many excuses to collaborate with other musicians. It's wonderful. And thank you for doing that. But what does the process for these collaborations tend to look like for you? Is there one way of doing it? Do you, with different people, collaborate in different ways?
I think the biggest hurdle for me is getting over being embarrassed or like shy, or like I might get rejected, and actually just like, I'm going to just send them a DM.
Yeah.
Do you want to collab? And most of the time it's like, yeah, of course. But like that weird, like, they're going to think I'm a nerd and not want to collab with me. You know what I mean? I'm washing my hair that night. I can't collab with you.
Gotta get yourself hyped up to send an email. I know that feeling.
The craziest feeling. And I'm like, I don't know why I do it to myself every single time, because I'm like, this would be so cool if like a singer sang on it instead of rapping.
Yeah.
And I know all these singers, but tell me why, even though I'm friendly and talk to them, I'm still nervous as heck to like send a dumb email or a DM. And so like, I think that's what it was like, especially when I did that Bard cipher.
So fun.
So fun. Bullets emailing all of you guys. Like, I'm like, I know you would be down because we talked about rapping and stuff like that. So I'm like, I definitely got Will. I definitely got Andy. I don't know if everyone else is going to be up for it. And then I even got Elise, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So like putting that together was like super fun. And then getting Spencer to mix it and everything. But it was, I think for me, it was just getting over myself and being like, they want to do music, and it's always fun to collab with people. It's just waiting for someone to ask you.
Yeah.
So why wait for someone to ask me to collab when I can just put myself out there? And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, but.
Absolutely. Well, it's wonderful. And it's so great working with you personally. It was such a fun project, and it came out so wonderfully. But with the stuff that you've done, your kind of concept albums, you've done a little bit of the classic D&D thing. You've done a more modern take on D&D with your more recent album, Music to Get Detention To.
Oh, yeah.
Is there another setting that you want to explore? Space, maybe?
Wow. How did you know?
Did I get it?
I've been playing with it. It was before when I first started making my own instrumentals. I have a whole story, and I even have like drawings that I was going to get my friend to maybe do art for me.
Awesome.
I just did not like the instrumentals by the end of it. Like, it was just, what I should do now is honestly go back and revisit it.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I know now, because this would have been before the D&D stuff that I was working on, like kind of like a sci-fi, of course, influenced by everything, Firefly, Cowboy Bebop,
yes,
Bounty Hunter, all that stuff. I had all concepts of like countries building spaceships, and it's like this country is now on a giant spaceship in space. So if you want to go visit like Japan, you go visit the Japanese like space vessel.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So like, that's crazy that you just called that.
I know things buried under this hat.
Yeah, because I was like, that's one of the things I've been doing. I've been thinking about going back and doing like another Fantasy Heart Brigade, like a volume 2. I've been working on that for a while, but just haven't got the story that I want to do. But yeah, and then other than that, like other just like instrumental stuff, like I think it'll probably be already out by the time the concert comes out. But I have like a 6 or 7 beat EP for Dia de los Muertos that's coming out. Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah. So, and then like I wanted to write to it, but it was just one of those things where I just didn't have enough time to write, or I was like in a messed up fit of writer's block. Funny enough, it wasn't until campaign 3 hit that like seeing the characters made me want to start writing again.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I just recently, over the weekend, I put out, or yesterday actually, at the time we're recording this, yesterday, put out a song about Ashton, Talison's character.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll go on Twitter right after this.
Oh yeah, totally broke me out of my writer's block to the point where I'm like, I'm writing bars and I'm like, this is one of my best bars. I don't care. Like,
dude,
I'm like, at least for me, I'm like, this is one of the best bars.
I can't wait to hear it. Oh, that sounds awesome. Well,
and it's actually getting pretty good reception, which I'm like,
good.
Out of nowhere, I'm like, there's a song, and everybody's liking it. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Well, what was it about campaign 3, which people watching this will have already seen all of it, but we just experienced it a couple days ago. So what were your initial thoughts? Do you have any favorites or theories?
Oh man, it's spiraled from like, I have theories to like now, like there's a board with like red string tying stuff together. We've got like a Discord chat where now everybody's like, what about this idea? What about that idea? And then secret DMs. You haven't watched the episode yet, so we're going to secret DM behind your back until you watch it. It's bananas. We had, I think Rochelle talked to you about this, but we had like a poll going to see who would get a point of inspiration.
Yeah.
Who gets the most.
Did you get
First off, I got 0.
No.
0. The crazy thing about, she's currently playing a warlock in our campaign, and I'm like, did you make the pact with your patron? Because 3 in a row, Marisha comes out, nails it. Laura comes out, nails it. I think Sam came out, nailed it. And we're like,
wow.
And then, of course, they threw a monkey wrench in the plans and brought in 4 characters we've already seen before.
Right.
So that totally threw it off. But then even that, now we're like, Talison's Travis is a troll. So is this like a character that's just here for a moment? Is he going to be this character for the whole time?
I was so scared. I thought he wasn't coming back. Oh, man.
Yeah, I think everybody thought that too. When Robbie sat down instead, we're like, oh, no. But then at the same time, I was like, it's Robbie.
Yeah.
So I really want Robbie to stay the whole campaign. I don't think he will, but I love Robbie so much. But right now, I super love Marisha's character.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure I'm playing the same class or race as her. I think she's the X-Blood. Pretty sure she's a Hexblood.
I know nothing about this. I've seen the theories online. What is that?
So it's like a half hag from the Van Richten's book. Yeah. So I'm currently playing a cleric Hexblood in the campaign I'm playing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and like I love her. And then like so like I saw like and then she started doing I know she's Pack of the Undead Warlock. And then that's where the whole like, transformation came from, the form of dread.
Okay.
And I was like, she's the Van Richten's girl. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah, because I'm currently playing, I'm like a Hexblood cleric female. So I'm like, Van Richten girls forever.
Nice.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, when we talked last year, you had never played D&D before. And
Dude.
now, what is this? Is this your second character? Third?
Second character. This is my second campaign.
I'm so happy for you,
Yes,
man.
it's awesome. Yeah.
How did all that started? What are your thoughts after playing the game now for a while?
I mean, I already loved it before playing the game.
Yeah.
The thing that I think that's kind of, it's like the pros and cons is now that I'm so invested in my own game, a lot of the actual plays that I used to watch, I kind of like fell off on because I'm now thinking about my own game.
Yeah.
Instead of like, what about that game that I was watching? What about that game I was listening to?
These are my characters.
Yeah, this is my baby now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it was awesome. Yeah, we like kind of like in December after the first concert, a group of us got together and we played for about 6 months. Awesome. And that was pretty fun. So good like learning, I think, curve kind of there.
Yeah.
Then did a couple one shots, which is like super fun. And then now we started up this campaign with a couple other critter bards and stuff like that too. So
great. That's so awesome.
This concert's bringing community closer and making closer friends and stuff like that. So thank you, by the way, for putting this all together, man. Like you're putting in all this work, making the community a lot more tight knit and feel more like family. So thank you, man, for all the hard work you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. But I mean, that's one of the joys of doing silly, stupid things like this is, I'm just giving you guys a platform upon which to be the awesome people that you already are. And so, the fact that you guys took it upon yourselves to, go make games together and do collaborations, that's all you guys. But I'm honored to be a part of that narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, man, we wouldn't be here without you. So you take that compliment, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Now, you're also, in addition to all of the music and the D&D, you are hosting a podcast now. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, I've been wanting. I used to do podcasts with friends a few years. Actually, I had one going with some friends, and we were kind of like fizzling out just because, real life happens and then the pandemic happened. And then so it just made it hard to jump back on.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to do a music podcast. I had something set up with a friend where it's like, let's just talk about albums or artists, just because I just want to talk music to somebody.
Absolutely.
But then that always didn't work out because of time zones.
Hard to schedule stuff.
Yeah, it's so hard. And then now that I'm like super into Dungeons and Dragons, and then we have this like Bard community, I was like, here's my opportunity to somehow, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But what I want to do is kind of like pick people's brains on the art aspect, meaning the D&D, and what influences what.
Yeah.
Or what now are you getting from this that influence, that fills this void.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking for that. And then so it started off as music, but I'm thinking it's going to start slowly expanding into other forms of art. So cosplay, maybe novels, art, illustration and stuff like that. Yeah. Animation, maybe. I had one person reach out that's a novelist, so I might have him on soon.
Oh,
which also, if you're listening to this and you want to talk about your art and D&D, can y'all like email me? It's dnbeats, the letter D, letter N, beats, podcast at gmail.com. So that way you can come and talk to me and I can nerd out with you. Even if you don't like think you're like an artist or whatever, but you love D&D and you're just making a whole bunch of characters or subclasses or homebrews, I want to pick your brain because I love it. So
go do it, people. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you're watching and you're enjoying this segment of our concert, I have a feeling that you would get a big kick out of the D and Beats podcast. So go check that out.
That'd be awesome.
All right. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
Now, as you can tell by my silly hat, it is the winter time. What does this season mean to you? I know that living in certain parts of the country, maybe not as cold as it necessarily is in others, but are there any winter holiday traditions or stories that come to mind? What does this season mean to you?
This is good. Interesting enough, I think for me, it's finding the new traditions. I have by the time this comes out, wintertime, I'll have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so they're at that point where wonder and fun and all that stuff actually is sinking in. So we're just trying to find what a new tradition is, make our own family traditions as it were. And then also my wife really likes giving back to our personal community. So we don't want to just make it like our kids are just going to grow up hey, this present thing or this fun banquet or feast or whatever. She wants to make sure that we're going out into our community and helping those in need as well. And just trying to figure that out as well. Before we've teamed up with different places to serve, hot meals or pass out during Thanksgiving, turkeys and stuff like that. So she really loves doing that. And we want to instill that in our kids. So finding stuff like that we can do in our area to help out and, be together with other folks and enjoy the holidays. So
that's amazing. Jake, thank you so much for coming back on. Always an absolute joy talking with you. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you online?
Just look for me on Twitter, at Jake_Lionheart. Had to think about that for a minute. Most of my links there. If you want free music to download, you can go to JakeLionheart.bandcamp.com. All my music is there for free. You can just download it, put it on your phone, wherever. Look for me on Spotify, Jake Lionheart as well. And I think, and D and Beats podcast. You can go to, that's everywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, all of them. Just look for the letter D, the letter N, Beats, Beats, and I should pop up. Find your favorite critter bard from the concert. They're most likely have an interview with them there. And that's me.
Fantastic. Well, go do it, people. And thank you again for coming on, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hearth is hallowed ground, windswept are the firmaments, the darkest months are here, we put the passing year to sleep. And from the night a sound, if you're still awake, you'll hear it spilling out from well-lit homes to brave the winter street. Hearth is hallowed ground, fire-lit and fabled. Yes, the darkest months are here, and with them come the need to rest. So we gather round, bodies packed with wool. We've weathered storms with stories told. The days of old will warm us best. If you hold a candle or a hand, it's still a light, a shelter in a home or friend will keep you through the night. Take heart, for in the coming time the land will flood with life.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show.
Hi.
Hey, it's good to be back.
In case you missed our first Critical concert last year, Lilli Furfaro and Hunter Rogerson are two wonderful songwriters who've been creating music for the Critical Role community for a long time now. There's lots to talk about, but first, would you tell us a little bit about Heart and Hearth?
Sure. It is based on the Wildmount holiday on the 16th of Daskar. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but it's called the Day of Heart and Hearth. It's an outdoor festival during the day and an indoor time with family in the evening where people all kind of gather around the hearth and tell stories and be with each other. So that's kind of, it's right kind of in that little niche that the song is supposed to live in. Matt talked about it in a tweet one time, and I loved it.
It's the perfect winter holiday. That's what you need, is just time with family, quiet, peaceful moments. Now, you guys worked on this together. What does the songwriting process look like for the two of you when you're collaborating like that?
Well, I can speak to the fact that this is almost all Lilli. She's obviously a phenomenal songwriter. So I just knew that she was like kind of grinding that out. I didn't honestly even like poke in to adjust or check. Like it was like a total trust. Like once it's done, let me know. And then I'll add whatever you want me to add, which was in the end, not much. We were like bouncing around about like, oh, are we going to do some kind of like indie folk-ish thing, like some big deep vibes or like with a little electric guitar overdubbed. But we decided we would start off, she would rock the acoustic guitar. I would just do some electric bass underneath to kind of like give it a nice anchor point. We would record that live in one take, and then whatever we got out of that, we would figure out if it needed some extra dressing, and it didn't.
No, it turned out pretty great. And Hunter's sensitivity and listening and intuition is incredible. So anything I just kind of threw at him, he filled it all in, so it was complete in itself in a way it hadn't been. It was really wonderful.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now that you have been working together, you've released a project together. Tell us more about this. I want to know all of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is how it all started, actually.
Yep.
We wanted to write music together.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
So we started doing that.
That's kind of how I got in touch with Lilli after the concert. It was literally this concert last year, and I saw her piece, Melora's Lullaby.
It's a good one.
It's a good one, as it turns out. Pretty all right. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is also while the Something Golden Mir James folk project is still churning and I'm still working on it. And I'm like, okay, she's tapped into that.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to work with her and like arrange parts and just whatever. She's killer. I want to do some kind of cool project. We reached out to I reached out to her, and then we kind of kept in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And then
we were talking about what we wanted to build it on, what sort of the pillar of the project would be. I wrote a little song. This is so funny to talk about. We haven't talked about it at all.
A little song. It was so good, dude.
It was very funny. I sent it, and then because of the time zone difference, I feel like I went to sleep, and then I woke up to like I fully orchestrated and arranged. I lost my mind. But that one was called Blooming Strangely, and the project developed from there.
Mm-hmm.
And so did we.
Yeah.
So in the process of writing a lot of really cool folk music based on the concept of blooming and time and gardens and people, we first of all, not to be all sappy and stuff, but like fell super head over heels in love with each other. And second of all, created a duo called Ginger and Pear.
Yep.
Okay.
Ginger and Pear.
Like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Where does that name come from?
A sweet little inside moment from when we were sort of first courting. When we were talking about like what if one of what is it? If we were flavors, what would the other be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was drinking a tea, and it was a ginger and pear tea, and we were thinking, oh yeah,
Who's who? Like tag yourself.
Yeah, and then it was very lovely and sweet and
yeah. We went through great lengths describing how one was the other, and just like, oh wow, this person's really cool.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's relentless sap. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So my apologies in advance for how annoying that's going to be.
But also not really.
No, I'm not sorry. Yeah. So that's where that name came from, and then and the blooming strangely thing that she mentioned was that was the first touchstone. Was that she was like worried about like, well, I don't know how to contribute to this. I've never done this. I don't know how. Where should we? What direction? What are
How do we start?
And like it's just and I'm like honestly, I always just kind of start, and then it just blooms strangely from there. And then she sent me a song called "Blooming Strangely." Nice. I lost my mind, and I've never come back. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We talked a lot last time we chatted, Hunter, about your kind of scoring, instrumental side of songwriting. Can you tell us a little bit about how you write lyrics?
Yeah. Wow. So sometimes almost always the song will come first. And in those instances, I'll kind of play the song or listen to it after I've already recorded some parts. And in the same way that I might hear like, oh, the cello would go ba-da-da-da-da, and then I would like just write in the cello as soon as I heard it, like desperately trying to hold on to that thread. I do that with the vocals, but I don't hear words. I just kind of hear sounds. So sometimes I do this horrifying thing where I'll sit by myself in a room playing the song and speak in tongues almost.
Yeah.
I'll just say something. And it won't be words more often than not, but it's kind of like it's the reverse effect of listening to a bit of speech over and over and over, and all of a sudden that phrase that was just spoken, yeah, and the words don't make sense, and all of a sudden it's just rhythm now. It's just like, I don't know if you've heard Different Trains, but it's like this minimalist piece where it's like the announcement at a train station being played over and over, and the composer picked out like the melody and had like a string quartet play those melodies. It's just the coolest shit. But I'm like doing the reverse where I'm saying that rhythmic nonsense, and then I'm like, what words are those really? And a lot of times that weird intuitive process yanks out whatever is just on my mind at the time without me knowing, and I have to figure out later what it's about. Like it's a bizarre process, but that's usually how it goes.
I love that. Now, Lilli, how does that compare to how you write lyrics?
It's very interesting because more often than not, I'll do words first.
I was wondering about
inverted.
that. Yeah.
Because that's kind of where my comfort zone is. I am more often than not working with words than with instruments. So I prefer to write a poem or write a snatch of something. And then the rhythm of it will become apparent afterward. And then I think that's often where it comes from, is like the rhythm of the phrasing will turn into how the music is supposed to work around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's really cool.
And then of course we've both kind of talked about like there are poets and just people that wield words differently that have like really struck us. And then I'm certain that those folks come in and kind of like subconsciously goad us towards like, this is the actual adjective I should use. Or like this is the way I should give weight to the very end of this line. That's never a conscious thing, but I've kind of noticed based on like the poetry that we both like ingest and stuff, like that's probably where some of that comes from too. So it's like the world of poetry is finally like, because I love reading and taking in that part of the art world. And it never has a place until I get to write lyrics, and then I get to kind of scratch that itch too.
We, in case you haven't noticed by the bags under my eyes, just last night watched the premiere of Campaign 3.
Mm-hmm.
What are our thoughts? Lilli, do you have a favorite character yet?
It's immediately Fresh Cut Grass.
Good, that is the right answer.
We don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about any of these new folks that are around, but Fresh Cut Grass owns my whole heart.
Yes.
And I don't know.
What more does he want?
What more does he
Yeah.
He can't taste.
He can't taste.
Any theories, any predictions?
There might be like interchangeable woven stories, and like I guess maybe that's a prediction in and of itself that they may approach it that way.
Yeah,
but there is mention of like Briarwood, so it's like, is there some known relationship like to that, or is that just like no, that's where she's from? Like I don't know, but yeah,
I have lots of dumb theories.
Yeah, well, those are good.
I'm curious to hear yours.
Put on the tinfoil hat. Let's go.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, patron is Vecna. She's either a lost descendant of the Briarwoods or like a Derolo going through a rebellious phase.
Wow.
There are all sorts of theories with that one.
Holy shit.
Holy moly. Yeah. Too much. So much stuff.
That blue Santa hat is lined with tinfoil.
Yeah.
I know it.
guys, I'm telling you. No, I've got one last question to wrap things up for us. It is the holiday time, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of winter holiday traditions or stories that come to mind? What does this time of year mean to you?
Ooh. We both are just like, like we have some secret, but we don't.
No, but we talk about this a lot within our own families and stuff like that. So that's
I think probably family, which is like, like that's like the thing that's on like every lame holiday card. Like this is
for
a time
good reason.
for family, and I know, but it is like that's definitely been what it like bringing together this like din of just people all around you, which specifically for me, who hates being around large crowds of people, it was a large crowd of people that made me feel comfortable and by myself still, like, just like a really unique experience, like people that you could just deeply trust being all close and around you. And huge. I think your song captures like that feeling where it's like the day and the nights in winter are so specifically beautiful. Like they're brutal, which is cool.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, and currently is not a good example of that. Pretty sick of not having seasons, but where
I feel that
where I came from, the seasons were very real, and winter could get pretty damn cold. And so you have these bleak days where the sun is out and there's like a cloudless sky, but the air bites you and the ground glistens, and like the trees like have glinting like sort of shards hanging off. It's like such an interesting sort of, right? Like it's like this, it's like rarefied almost. And then you have the nighttime, which like it obviously descends into its most bitter, but then you have all of like the little points of humanity just go and like glow orange, and it's like you can, everything gets really quiet, and then in the distance you have these orange pockets of glowing, and like that's like a really cool, and they signify, in the distance over there that if you were there you'd be safe and warm, or if you were there, like that feeling of like there's someone living a life over there, and it's very much in contrast to this negative 5 degrees whistling wind thing that's going on. It's very cool. Yeah. I think in a weird way, that's kind of what winter is to me. And the fact that family can play a role in that dichotomy is like real cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Lilli, do you have any traditions or stories from this time of year?
Traditions abound in our family. We every Christmas Eve, because my family celebrates Christmas, we watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life and eat homemade pizza that often my dad will make.
Wonderful.
Yep, and it's a tradition every time. My mom and I love that movie. My brother and my dad think it should be like 2 hours shorter, but we couldn't care less. We're gonna watch the whole thing. It's things like that. We always get a pair of pajamas on Christmas Eve. Wear them to bed, stuff like that. When we were much younger, my parents are and were awesome. My dad takes like jingle bells and would go down the street to make us go to bed so that we would eventually be scared into missing Santa Claus and
oh my gosh
and head to bed. It was wonderful stuff. But really the traditions came around traveling because my family is kind of scattered to the four winds. And so getting to see everybody in kind of a large pocket of time, or a small pocket of time, sorry, but a large area was really cool. And how we'd facilitate that and the travel itself, I got very familiar with some very specific back roads drives through rural Southern Ontario and the music that would accompany those, because I'd always have my headphones in. That in itself is a tradition.
Is there an album? Is there an artist?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it would mostly change every year, specific to the season. But I don't know that there is one particular album or artist I'd go back to. It was always, funnily enough, this past Christmas, because of the warmth of the day, even though it was winter time, it was a lot of Hunter's music.
Aww.
I don't know that he even knows that.
Don't make me cry on stream.
But it's true. We had like an hour and a half drive to where my grandparents are. And I went through a bit of the discography. So
well, that's so wonderful. What a lovely way to end this chat. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been a total blast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
If people want to know more about you, where can they find you online?
Oh, well, Twitter's usually happening. Usually some kind of antics. Might be visual stuff. Might be making 3D swords. Might be making music.
Excellent.
Sorry. And then YouTube and Spotify, pretty distilled for like music stuff. Spotify for sure is going to have like all the stuff that I've got publishing rights for. It's going to be there. And there's a lot of it. So yeah, Spotify
that's
for
Hunter
sure.
Rogerson on everything?
Hunter Rogerson. And then if you want to do the folk thing.
Please do it.
Please do. It's very good.
Please.
It's Mere James, MERE, and then James. Yeah.
Thank you. Lilli?
Yes, just my name all over the place, but it's a funky one. So spelling might be funny, but I'm on Twitter, also on YouTube, on also Spotify, which again, a new endeavor for me, but very fun to figure out.
Yeah.
And I'm in the same way that I break a lot of technology. Social media I'm not great at, but I try to keep up. I do a lot of creeping and less posting. But if you want to come find me there and chat or take a listen, those
excellent.
are much the spots.
Go do it. Well, thank you both again. But before we go, we have one more surprise for everyone out there watching. Hunter, would you like to give us some sort of preamble?
Of course. Well, we talked about Driskar, the winter month in Exandria. The second day of that is the night of Barren Eve, which is a day of remembrance for fallen folks in battle and otherwise. A lot of times it was held at night, candlelight visuals. So I felt like the energy of bringing people around in a dark circle, candle lit, felt like a nice way to bring a lot of musicians around in a circle. So I tried to gather tons of people and put together a symphonic arrangement of what otherwise would be a a cappella candlelight vigil.
Wonderful. Well, let's listen to it.